You're watching CT22 with Eric Parker, sponsored by Hartford Healthcare.
Welcome back. It was 33 years ago that Elizabeth Horton Sheff and a number of other Hartford parents filed a lawsuit against the state of Connecticut on behalf of their children seeking equality and quality in education. Just over a week ago, a settlement was announced in the case. Here to talk about the conclusion of the lawsuit is one of the original lawyers on that case, attorney John Brittain, who is now a law professor down in the District of Columbia. Professor Brittain, thank you for being with us. What was your reaction when you heard that this case that's been running since 1989 had reached a resolution?
My reaction was satisfaction and also a great tribute to the lawyers currently on the case, as well as the settlement with the state of Connecticut. It has taken a long time to produce a settlement which will last for 10 years and will promote racial, ethnic, and socioeconomic diversity, both in Hartford and the surrounding greater Hartford area schools.
I know it's a lot of big changes in education, and I want to talk to you about that, but you were there from the beginning. When it began, obviously you knew that what you were asking for was probably somewhat extraordinary at the time, but could you foresee that it would be 30 years later before this thing could resolve? Did it seem that long range to you at the time?
I didn't really see it, but I should have seen it, because when I started the lawsuit with my lawyer colleagues in 1980s, I was a graduate, so to speak, of the Brown versus Board of Education case, having been in Mississippi and brought school desegregation cases in the late 60s and the early 1970s. And it took 16 to really 20 years long to really implement the Brown versus Board of Education case. I didn't expect that in Connecticut. In fact, I didn't expect to see de facto segregation in Hartford, Connecticut, the way I saw it in the Deep South of Mississippi and other southern states. So in reflection, it probably was about the same time that it took some of the big other school desegregation cases to finally agree on a settlement and a plan with financial support by the state of Connecticut to produce a better quality and integrated education.
Obviously, so many of our viewers are familiar with that Brown versus Board of Education and the milestone results that came out of it. And many of them probably have been hearing Sheff versus O'Neill for all these years without having a real good understanding of what it means for education in Connecticut. I know a lot of the outcome of this is magnet schools and the ability for school lotteries and parents to have their kids go to places outside of their traditional district. But can you explain to our viewers why this is a big deal and why it would come into the same kind of conversation as something as landmark as Brown versus Board of Education?
Sheff versus O'Neill is a landmark case for several reasons. The first, it's the only case in the country that's based upon a state constitution and not the federal constitution. And it's based upon state court decisions, not federal court decisions. And most of all, it's the only case that found that the segregation between school districts based on a boundary line was the primary cause of the segregation. And as a result, it's the only case that has a clear, firm remedy of inter-district school attendance. Whereas, you know, some students will go from Hartford, Connecticut to suburban schools, particularly magnet schools, and some students in the suburban schools will come into particularly the very attractive middle schools and elementary schools, and a new high school, middle school being built in East Hartford, or at least renovated. And that produces this racial and ethnic and geographic integration in the greater Hartford area.
And certainly Milo Sheff, who's now all grown up, not the one who will be recognizing the fruits of his name having been attached to this all these years, but certainly a new generation of kids will. I know the court supervision will end, but there will be this 10-year injunction where it will all be laid out. Do you feel like you've accomplished what you set out to accomplish now that this has come to a conclusion?
I feel that the plaintiffs, such as Elizabeth Horton Sheff and the other plaintiffs who were part of the lawsuit and their families, will be satisfied that we have reached a mutual agreement and settlement with the state with a very concrete plan and monitoring. And we can go back in the court in the future if there's any necessary to enforce compliance. So the real fruit will not just be the numbers, but it will be the change in academic achievement and success. And it will be the change of school integration as a benefit for all students.
I know you were here at the beginning here in Connecticut. Now you're down at the University of District of Columbia as a law professor. You mentioned that the Connecticut Constitution was the mechanism to make this change, but is this applicable in other places? Will this Sheff decision be working its way into textbooks in law schools and something that young lawyers who want to set on a path like you did might be looking to as a way to help their communities?
Connecticut, along with New Jersey, are the only two states and with Supreme Court common law decisions, which prohibited both segregation as well as discrimination on the basis of race in the exercise of a fundamental right, such as education. In that sense, Connecticut is very unique. And it's even gone beyond where New Jersey is, where a pending Sheff-like case is in court right now. So we in Connecticut, I'm a native nutmegger, born and raised in Norwalk, Connecticut, should really feel great about producing, as Elizabeth Sheff would say, quality and integrated education in the public schools.
Well, that is now happening because of the settlement in the Sheff case. You were there at the beginning. We appreciate you being with us here on this Sunday morning to talk about it. Hopefully a lot of our viewers who have heard this Sheff versus O'Neill being in the headlines now have a better understanding of what it means for their communities. Professor John Brittain from the University of District of Columbia, we appreciate you being with us here on CT22.
It's my pleasure in Black History Month to be here.
All right. We appreciate you being here.